Welcome back to the Gridiron Drive. It is week 3 in the NFL season, and today we're breaking down the matchups that could make or break your fantasy lineup. We've got 3 segments for you today: Matchup Monsters, Rookie Radar, and the Red Zone Report. We're going to cover key matchups, rookies that are on the rise, and the players getting those valuable red zone looks that turn into touchdowns. I'm Anthony Correnti, joined as always by my co-host Peter Traina. Pete, we ready to dive into week 3?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. As always, please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of the good stuff. This week is packed with potential. So whether you're a 2-0, 0-2, or somewhere in between, we've got you covered.
We do indeed have you covered. And without further ado, let's get right into it with our first segment. First up, we've got Matchup Monsters. These are the players with matchups this week that scream fantasy points from the hilltops. We're talking weak defenses, favorable game scripts, and opportunities to rack up yards and touchdowns. Speaking of yards and touchdowns, let's start with the quarterback position and Dak Prescott going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Mouth-watering matchup this week. Dak's going up against the Ravens defense. This defense has been shredded by opposing quarterbacks so far. Worst pass defense in the league from a yardage perspective so far.
Exactly. Dak, he's been underwhelming so far this year, but I think he's quarterback 15 in PPR or half PPR. But this matchup is kind of the perfect storm for him. The Ravens, like you said, they rank dead last in pass defense, and they're especially vulnerable to some deep shots. They're giving up over 10 yards per completion. Look for Dak to right the ship and potentially be a top 5 quarterback this week against a Ravens defense that has given up over 250 yards per game.
It's kind of a staggering number. The Ravens pass defense. I know, Mahomes in week 1, but that's a big number.
Minshew week 2.
Minshew mania. Minshew shredded him up. Yeah, man. I do wonder if Jake Ferguson will go, but I don't think that really hinders Dak a whole lot one way or the other. I think also Jalen Tolbert started to come on a little bit last week. So if they can get someone to settle in there as the number 2 across from Lamb, especially if Ferguson misses again. I love it, though. I think it's a great matchup for Dak for sure. Yeah, are you starting Dak no matter what in this one?
Yeah, I'm starting Dak no matter what. I think the thing about the quarterbacks this year is that really nobody has done anything. Nobody has really, besides Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr, basically.
Yeah, passing production's just been down.
Yeah, so it just feels so weird to talk about the Baltimore Ravens defense and not be talking about them being like elite. But right now they're not making it happen in the passing game. So
yeah, still time to round into form, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk running backs. Jordan Mason, in the absence of one Christian McCaffrey, chewed up the Jets. More production last week. Mason could be in line for another monster game against the Los Angeles Rams, who are currently giving up 197 rushing yards per game. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, man. Mason is set up pretty nicely this week. Like you said, those rushing yards are awful for the Rams. They've been gashed by the run, and Mason should dominate this game. I expect the 49ers to be in control. With all the injuries to the Niners, skill position players, I wouldn't be surprised if he finds the end zone twice. If you have him, you have got to start him. You see no difference between him and McCaffrey, kind of. It's freakish.
It's nuts. The Shanahan run game. I hate to say it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter who you put in there. Because obviously McCaffrey is a world beater and like a true elite difference maker, but they're just, the whole family's just so good at plucking these guys out of nowhere. And the scheme is the scheme. And they just, I don't know. The O-line's good. They get hands on you. They move people and they get these guys who are just willing to make one cut, find the hole and maximize what's in front of them. And I don't see any reason it slows down for Jordan Mason this week, especially with no Debo. They might even have to lean on him even more.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I think he's only getting one target per game in the passing game so far.
Mm-hmm.
So if that goes up,
Yeah, could be wheels up. All right, and finally, show the wide receivers some love here.
oh yeah,
Chris Olave against the Philadelphia Eagles. Olave, a dream matchup against the Eagles secondary that we just saw couldn't stop Kirk Cousins and Drake London in the
Kirko.
last minute. Kirk carved them up. They're giving up 242 passing yards per game so far. Olave looks to be in a prime position to continue that trend and get his season kind of on track. I know people probably have been a little disappointed so far, but this feels like a get right spot for Olave.
Absolutely. The volume got better in week 2, so that was nice to see. And he's got a clear advantage against Philly's defensive backs. This could be a big week, especially if this turns into a high scoring affair, which I think it will, and so does the betting public, because I think this went from let me double check. I had this open. It was opened up at, I want to say 45.5, and it is now 49.5 and climbing. So the Saints have scored 40 plus both weeks. And, first week was Carolina, and then they did it against Dallas, which I had as a top 10 defense this year. So, Philly's also given up 2 passing touchdowns per game. So this is a juicy matchup for Olave, a nice get right game. Or it could be the Rashid Shaheed, 200 yards, 4 catches.
Very well could be. Very well could be.
No, but I think Olave gets right. Yeah.
I think so too. I hate to ever use like the he's due, but he's due. He's due for a big blow up spot. All right. So to recap, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, San Francisco 49ers running back Jordan Mason, and New Orleans Saints wide receiver Chris Olave are our matchup monsters of the week. Make sure they're in your lineups. Lock it in. Now we're going to go ahead and switch gears to our next segment.
All right, it's time for Rookie Radar. This is where we dive into the rookies who are making an impact that could help your fantasy team. There have been some rookies showing serious potential so far, and this week they're in a great spot to get some momentum going. Let's start with your boy, Braylon Allen, New York Jets. There's not much to say here. I mean, he's not getting a huge workload, but he's sure making it count. Last week he had 2 touchdowns. This is going to sound like so typical, but he reminds me of like a Brandon Jacobs. Like he's just bigger than everyone, and he's not slow, and he's just a bruiser. Like he's what is he, 20, 19? Is he even 20?
He's 20. He's 20.
Yeah. And he just looks like a man against boys when he gets to work. Now, obviously, Brees is there, and that's a thing, but you absolutely love to see that 2-headed monster out there. And we've always said it, let your best players play. Have Brees flank out wide sometimes. He's a legit receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I love Braylon Allen.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, number one, it's nice that we heard it all summer from the Jets beat in camp. Like Braylon Allen looked like one of the best players. So it was nice. It was disappointing when he didn't get kind of any run in week 1. But the Jets do that with rookies for some reason.
Right.
Like they did that a couple of years ago with Garrett Wilson, and everybody was freaked out. Like they had, nobody's out there ahead of them, and they were just reluctant to play him in week 1. So he obviously looked great last week, saw bigger opportunities, scores the 2 touchdowns. I think the biggest thing is, and not comparing them as players, but having Braylon Allen gives them what they thought they were going to get with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook last year, right? And we've seen an Aaron Rodgers offense sustain 2 fantasy startable running backs before.
Yeah.
So I know Braylon Allen in PPR is the RB26 right now. Maybe he doesn't maintain that all year. But when you have a guy like Braylon Allen out there who now has showed you he can catch the ball a little bit, he can pass protect, and they ran those formations with both him and Breece out there at the same time. Braylon Allen being out there opens things up in a way for Breece, and Breece being out there definitely opens things up for Braylon Allen. And we saw it on that touchdown pass that he caught. He's going to have a real role on this team. He's not going to, like overtake Breece or anything crazy like that. But I feel like he's going to touch the ball, 10 times a game in some carries, some targets. So, not somebody you could pencil into a big workload, but especially with his size, and if they get down the red zone and want to just, ram him in there, I think Braylon Allen is somebody that, in a pinch, you can throw out there in a flex, and maybe he's a little touchdown dependent, but he's going to get work moving forward.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Malik Neighbors of my New York Giants. He's been getting all of the work there. He had 18 targets last week, 7 the week before. Um, he's got a matchup against Cleveland's secondary. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him. I mean, it's the Giants are going to live and die by Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors. Jeez, that was hard to say. But this is a great opportunity for him. He's just going to keep the momentum going. He's a target monster. I think he's a must start every week. People were probably reluctant to draft him early, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But he's proven his believers, and he's paid it off.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw it last week. He's getting a ton of looks, getting high value targets in key situations. You got to start him at this point. He's the wide receiver 3 right now in PPR. And you're right. People were pushed off, I think, because of the Daniel Jones stink and, worrying. But look, we say it over and over again, opportunity is king. And I said it a couple times about Malik specifically, like he's going to have the Garrett Wilson rookie year. Like maybe the yardage totals aren't insane by the end of the year, but he's going to go over 1,000 yards and he's probably going to get 140 targets. Like he's going to see as many looks as he can handle. Maybe you have a ton of depth ahead of him and, you don't have to, but I think most people, you got to start him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're in a super shallow league, I don't see too many options where you can't fit him in there as a wide receiver 3 or flex.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and finally, this one's a bit spicy. But we've got a Bo Nix. Do you believe? Because I do. Now, he's a bit under the radar, but the Broncos, they've kind of been putting him in good spots, and I think this is the week that he breaks through. Tampa is a bottom 5 pass defense. They're down multiple defensive backs, and they've given up 240 yards per game. I think if you're in a deeper league, especially a super flex, you should take notice. He should probably be in your lineups if you have a super flex or even like maybe not a 12-teamer, but he's someone I would take notice on, this week specifically.
Yeah, for sure. I think the key for me with Bo this week is I need to see him at least threaten to push the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
Like this should be the spot where it finally happens, because until he puts that out there, teams are just going to keep sitting all the underneath stuff, and the run game is never going to get going. And we know Sean Payton obviously wants to get that going with some combination of Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin and the guys that are there. This feels like the spot where he can finally let one fly a little bit. Like, let's see him connect on something deep a couple times and, keep that Tampa defense on his heels. Like you said, they're giving up yards right now. They're down some players. I'd like to see him push it a little bit this week. And, I like the call on that one.
Yeah, and I know Todd Bowles, he's like really good against rookie quarterbacks, but I think Sean Payton could put Bo in some favorable matchups where, hey, the blitz is coming. Let's get the hot read out there. He's a dinker. He's a dunker. That's his thing. So if he can get the ball out quick, and he's got okay wheels for
oh yeah, for sure,
not like super athletic guy. So if he keeps the interceptions down, I would look to, put him on notice for sure.
For sure. Rookies are always inherently a little bit risky when you're playing redraft, but Nix, Braylon Allen, and of course Malik Neighbors, worth keeping an eye on this week. Worth putting out there and rolling the dice on. All right, now we're going to move on to our final segment and close things out with the Red Zone Report. This is where we're going to talk about the players that are getting the most valuable touches and targets in the red zone, where fantasy points are kind of won or lost. Nothing more valuable than being in the red zone. So first up, let's talk running backs. Ramondre Stevenson, leading his team in red zone carries, already punched in 2 touchdowns this season. He's a regular old touchdown machine. He's running it right in there. The Pats are a 2009-10 Jets throwback ground and pound offense right now.
The Rec special. Yeah, and the great thing about Ramondre is that even though we thought that maybe his yardage might not be consistent, it has been this year, but his red zone usage has made him a must start. He's got those high leverage touches near the goal line, and I expect him to add a touchdown this week. The Jets are I'm sorry, Anthony. Bottom five in rushing touchdowns given up, and bottom 10 in yards per game, on top of being down two starting defensive linemen. Um, do you think they make the call to Hassan this week?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it happens after the Pats game on Thursday, but I think without Hassan and now losing Jermaine Johnson and no John Franklin Myers after trading him, look, I think the unfortunate reality for the Jets is they're going to play a lot of kind of bend and hopefully not break defense in some of these situations. So I
Yeah,
expect Ramondre to get his yards. And if they get to the red zone, yeah, I think he's definitely a threat to punch another one in. The key, I think, in the game is if the Jets are smart, they should really, as opposed to the last couple of weeks, come out and try and establish the ground game of their own. Not saying they should abandon the run, but they should look to kind of push the tempo, push the pace, get out ahead early, and try and make the Pats catch up.
yeah,
Because if that happens, I think that plays into what the Jets want to do pretty well. But yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think Ramondre Stevenson's going to get his yards against the Jets defense. All right, next up, we've got Trenton Irwin quietly racking up red zone targets. Sneaky red zone target right now. He's a huge part of the passing game when his team gets close to the end zone, but the touchdowns haven't quite followed yet.
exactly. Mr. Irvin, he's due for some positive touchdown regression. It feels so weird to be putting him in this category, but the numbers do not lie, my friend. He's been targeted 5 times inside the red zone without scoring. I think this could be the week he finally finds the end zone. His red zone usage makes him someone you'd consider starting in deeper leagues. I'm not saying, start him in a 10-teamer or a 12-teamer, but he's getting those high leverage touches near the goal line, and I expect him to add a touchdown this week. He had 6 targets total last week, and Washington has given up 3 passing touchdowns per game. So, I don't know, man. If this is the week, if there ever is a Trenton Irwin week, this would be it.
This would be it. Look, we're in the middle of injury Armageddon here.
Yeah.
If you're in a deep league and you've been ravaged by injuries to one of the Rams wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, take your pick. Everybody's hurt.
Yeah.
So if you're in a deep league and need a dart throw at flex, he's getting some usage in the red zone that makes it worth the risk there. All right, and finally, talking tight end, George Kittle. Look, we know George Kittle. We know what George Kittle does, but he's getting a ton of red zone looks. Already caught 1 red zone touchdown. I expect him to be kind of a go-to guy there. We talked about Jordan Mason already, but they're down Deebo Samuel. I expect Kittle to kind of be a main focal point of that passing game with Deebo out, him and kind of everything funneled through him and Ayuk, especially with no CMC too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, those injuries, it's him and Mason are going to be funneled, like you said. He's one of those guys where he could have a game where he's just an elite blocker, and maybe that's his role. But he's almost always worth the start, especially with his red zone usage. Listen, the Rams have given up 2 passing touchdowns per game so far. If you're looking for a tight end, it's been ugly so far this year. George Kittle, he's probably a must start anyway if you drafted him, but he should definitely be on your radar.
Yeah, totally agree. Like I said, I think that offense loves to run itself through CMC, and then when he's not there, they love to fancy themselves running it through Deebo Samuel. And then with him not there, I think the focus kind of keys back in on Kittle across or outside of Brandon Ayuk, of course.
Yeah.
All right, so keep an eye this week on Kittle, Trenton Irwin, and Ramondre Stevenson. We think those guys have some serious touchdown potential. That's going to do it for today's show. Quick hitting. Gave you some fantasy insights ahead of the week 3 games. Thank you for tuning in to the Gridiron Drive. We hope you've got some valuable insight to help set your lineups this week.
Don't forget, if you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any episodes.
Good luck to all of your fantasy rosters in week 3. May all your lineups hit. May all your bets cash. And we will see you guys later this week when we preview the full week 3 slate.
Keep the drive alive. Don't forget to like and subscribe.